We're very fortunate today that the Minister, Mike Russell, has taken time from his very busy schedule to come and talk to us about widening access and how the government sees the role of widening access in supporting its policy aims. And conscious that I have now reached my time slot, I'm going to hand over to Mike.
Thank you very much, Alan. My apologies, first of all, for croaking. As being an Education Secretary, you have to go to lots of schools. And being married to a primary head teacher, I get a second dose when I get home. So I'm croaking my way through this today. Can I thank you, Alan, for your introduction? I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak here today, and I want to make a very clear statement at the outset. The government, of course, aspires and has at its heart the desire to see a successful Scotland with opportunities for all, a place where people want to live, learn and engage in the shaping of the economic progression of Scotland. We set as our target when we came into office establishing sustainable economic growth. And whilst the possibility of doing that and the task of doing that has been made ever more difficult by the economic circumstances in which we find ourselves, it remains at the very heart of our vision. And we do believe that enabling all of Scotland's people to benefit from the opportunities that exist in Scotland means we have to ensure that they have access to an education that allows them to develop all of their skills to their full potential. Because that's the only way in which we can make sure that every citizen in Scotland contributes to the good of the whole. Now, education is, of course, at the centre of our national performance framework. And that reflects, of course, the importance that we give to it in terms of investing in people. But it reflects something else as well, something very important to me, certainly, that we have a centuries-old tradition of excellence in Scotland, and that is based upon not just a recognition of the importance of education to individual and national progress. It recognises the absolute right of each citizen in Scotland, each young person in Scotland, to have access to the best education that can be provided. And we connect that, certainly I connect that, and I think the Scottish intellect connects that, with the whole question of who we are, socially and culturally. Education is paradoxically, in my mind, not just about education. It is about the whole nature of the society in which we live. And access to education lies at the heart of that. And if there is poverty of access, then there is poverty throughout all the aspects of Scottish society. So I wanted to say that at the outset. That is a strong commitment from this government, and certainly from me personally as Cabinet Secretary. And of course it was against that background that this government reintroduced the principle of free education by abolishing the graduate endowment fee. And it's why the government, of course, is committed to widening access to higher education. Now, we see this duty right across the age range. The early years framework, getting it right for every child. In those sort of initiatives and projects, we show our commitment to the early years, and my colleague Adam Ingram, I think, has made a very distinguished contribution in making sure that the thinking about the early years goes to the very heart of our policy agenda. We want to give our children and our young people the support they need at the earliest stage to have positive life outcomes. And it's the same aspiration that lies at the heart of Curriculum for Excellence. Curriculum for Excellence will help our young people develop skills for learning and for life. It will allow them to engage in a way which maximises their opportunities, it will increase attainment and achievement, and that it will include increasing an aspiration to higher education. And Curriculum for Excellence is something which we intend to drive forward, but to listen to the education profession in particular as we do so. But of course, aspiring and achieving are different constructs. There are barriers to both for many individuals, barriers that are social, financial and geographical. I think this government has already shown that it's determined to take specific action to remove financial barriers through improving student support and by introducing a range of clear measures. We've abolished the graduate endowment fee, benefiting more than 50,000 graduates and students by more than £2,000 each. We've introduced what I think is a fairer means test in further and higher education to ensure support is targeted where it is most needed. We're introducing a £38 million package of grants for part-time learners in higher education, replacing loans and benefiting up to 20,000 students a year. And we've increased the funds available for student discretionary support from the 14.04 million we inherited in 2006-07 to 16.44 million in 2009-10, an increase of just over 17%. And of course, we provided an additional £30 million package in 2010-11, increasing the income of up to 75,000 students, including an additional £2 million for supplementary childcare discretionary funds. And I pay tribute to NUS Scotland for the help they gave us in that process. And I want to go on finding what resource I can to go on with that type of activity. Times are very tough. There is very considerable pressure upon our budgets. But I do recognise that we must try and support as much as we can. But the issue today is not just about what this government does. It's about partnership between all the players in driving forward the widening access agenda and overcoming some of the many barriers. It's about working together to help learners progress from school to post-school education as seamlessly as possible. And it's about the reality of living and working in a country of 5 million people. And I do think that that's one of the things we need to keep in our mind in Scotland. We often work and construct ideas and regulations and institutions as if we're a nation of 50 million people. We're a small nation, 5 million people. We should be able to find intelligent and flexible ways of making our policies work. And the partnership working is the best way to do that in a small country. We're all faced with difficult decisions at this moment. We all need to think more carefully and creatively about how we extract value from each pound we spend. An innovative partnership will allow us to do just that. That's why I'm pleased, for example, with the active role of the Funding Council, promoting widening access across the further and higher education sector. The regional fora, of which, of course, this is one, institutional articulation hubs, institutional activity from the Council's widening access and retention premium, the More Choices, More Chances programme, school-college partnership work, they all illustrate purposeful and successful activity. The establishment of the Funding Council's Access and Inclusion Committee provided a valuable national focus for those activities. And I'm supportive both of the work of the Council and the Committee. And of course, the review that's presently taking place of the initiatives is specifically focused on improving access and participation in higher education. And I want to stress, just in case you may have read accounts to the contrary in recent days, none of that work, none of that review activity is aimed at reducing budgets or cutting resources or disadvantaging any particular institution. It's about, however, taking a realistic approach to the current economic situation. It's about getting more bangs for your buck. It's about making absolutely certain that every penny we spend in this area has an outcome and a result. And I think I commend the Funding Council for having that determination. The Funding Council has the responsibility to be an efficient part of the public service, to provide best value for money, to properly evaluate the programmes it undertakes, and to ensure that institutional funding is properly targeted. It has, in other words, to do what we would all agree it should do,